it's time to blow some stuff up. In these next few sections, we are going to create the explodable box scene, and we're going to make the explodable box explode. So there's a few things we need to do. We need to animate the explodable box. We need to animate the detonator. We need to make the detonator respond to the player jumping on it. And we need to connect the two things up. So there will be more practice at animation, more practice at player detection using Area 2Ds. And then we're going to have to learn a new technique for communicating between scenes. So that to me seems like about 3 videos, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to start with the detonator. So what do I want to do? I want to go into Godot first, and I want to go Scene, New Scene, and I want to go 2D Scene. Immediately Control-click and change type, and I want to do a static body 2D. Static body 2D. Double-click. I'm going to call it detonator. Okay. Getting the warning, and it probably is about collision shape, yes. But first thing I'm going to do is add a sprite. So add a sprite. So I've clicked on the plus again. SPRI2 sprite 2D. Good. And let's bring in, so look, I've already got art selected down there. Let's bring in our box, no, not our box of TNT, our detonator PNG. So I just click and drag. And I should be in the inspector here, so I'll make sure the inspector is selected, and I've got Sprite 2D and it says empty, so go over here, detonator, click and drag. And there are my sprite frames. So once again, I have to go into animation. So how many frames horizontally do I have? I've got 4. 2, 3, 4. And vertically, I've got 2. So that's good. Okay. Shall we set about animating the detonator first? Let's do that. So with the parent node selected, I'm going to add an animation player. Animation player. There it is. Animation player. And again, I want to animate the sprite frames. At least that's what I want to do first. Later, I'm going to animate some other things, but let's start with the sprite frames. So we've got animation there. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go new. I'm just going to call it detonate. And then we need to add a track. So click on the plus, property track. And it's the sprite 2D we want to animate. Double click. And it's the texture. But is it? No. It's the frame we want to animate. We've already put the texture in. We're not going to change the texture. We're going to change the frame of the texture. So double click. And we've got our new track. So go into Sprite 2D. And again, we have got our little keys, which enable us to animate anything with a little key next to it. And the key we want is the frame. So we're at 0 seconds there. And at 0 seconds, we want the frame to be 0. So we keyframe it at 0. Excellent. Now the playhead has moved. And we're already at 0.1 seconds on our animation. And we're on frame 1. So it's already advanced the frame look. So what I need to do is create another keyframe there. Click it. And we've got another keyframe. I'm just going to move my slider here to make it more visible. So it's 0, and double click. It's that one. 0.1, it's that one. 0.2, it's that one. All right, let's go to 0.3. And 0, 1, 2. So we want frame 3 now. Keyframe. Good. It's already moved to 0.4 and it's already moved to frame 4. So just keyframe, 0.5 frame 5, keyframe that, frame 6 at 0.6, keyframe that. And that's great. So we have a 0.6 second animation. Let's click over here on the clock and change it to 0.6. Is that going to work? If we press play. Oh, I think we need to change it to 0.7 because it stops before it gets to the last one. Go back. Press play. And we've got our plunger animating. Okay, we need to add a few more things to this detonator. The first thing we need to add is a collision shape because we're getting that warning. So on the plus, collision shape 2D. And you know what? I'm going to add 2 collision shapes, one for the box here and another one for the handle. So I'm just going to double click there and go box collision shape. And I have no shape. So come in here. New rectangle shape 2D. Looks good. Now I've got snapping on. Turn off snapping if you can't fit it to your sprite, but it's looking pretty good at the moment. Zoom in if you want to see it better. Move that to there. And I'm going to move that up just slightly. All right, so that's my box collision shape. The other thing I want, and for this I'm going to bring my animation back to 0. I want a collision shape for the handle, because when the player jumps on the handle and the handle slides down, I kind of want the player to slide down on top of the handle. It just makes it look a bit better. It's not really necessary, but I think it's worth the effort just to make it look a bit better, add a bit to the player experience. So with detonator as the parent, I've still got collision shape selected in there. Double click. And I'm going to call it handle. Handle collision shape. And again, I need to choose a shape. So I'm just going to choose a rectangle. And I'm going to click on it. Being careful not to move anything else, but it's right at the bottom. Really important that you put it at the bottom. Then you can select it because it's drawn on top of other things. I just can make it really thin. Probably not that thin. Yeah, that'll do. Move it up as high as it'll go. Probably there. And I think that's fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to animate the collision shape so it moves downwards with the handle. So what I do, it's not going to go down very far, probably only 3 frames. So what I do is I do add track, property track, and this time I want to do handle collision shape, and I want to do position. Here we go. And the playhead is at 0. So let's go into transform. And I've got position here. And I just keyframe. And there's my keyframe. I'm just going to move the playhead along 1. See, it's still below it, so that's okay. It's still below it. So I have moved to 0.3. I'm going to click on the collision shape and select it, move it below the handle, and just keyframe it there. And then I'm going to wait till it gets to the bottom, and I'm going to move it down a bit more, and I'm going to keyframe it. So it's a little bit crude. but it's better than nothing. Move it back to 0 here. And press play. So yeah, so the idea is when the player lands on it, the player will collide with the collision shape there, and as the plunger moves down, the player will move down with the plunger. It's only a 3-frame animation, nothing fancy, but it just makes the game look a little bit better for the player. Right, we're not done. We have to detect the player landing on the plunger there. So you can probably work out what we need because we've done this before. Click on the plus. We need an area 2D. Area 2D. Double click. Change the name to player detector. And we've got a warning because we don't have a collision shape. So with the player detector selected, click on the plus, collision shape 2D, put it there, and it has no shape, so we go over to shape, we want a rectangle again, and click on it, which you should be able to do because it's drawn last, move it above the handle, move it out to it so that it covers the handle, and I'm going to turn off snapping. I'm going to shrink it, and I'm going to bring it. You see, it's quite hard to do that. Yeah, I'm going to click on that, bring it over the handle to make it look as realistic as possible. All right, so you can do that with the X stance, or you can click on that to move it and then use the X stance. So I've got the bottom-most section of my shape covering the bottom of the handle, click on the top one, move it down. Before I forget, I'm going to turn snapping back on, and I think I might not have been following my rules. I'm going to click this so that it's impossible to move any of these things by mistake. Right, so now I've got my area 2D, and I need that to detect the player. Before I do anything else, click on detonator, go into collision, and what are we? We're a prop. And we can interact with the player, so that's fine. So only the player will be detected if it comes into contact with this area 2D here. But we need to do something if the player comes into contact. So with detonator selected, want to add a script. And I haven't saved my scene, have I? And I've gone wrong doing that before in the past, so I Command S, detonator scene, save it in props. Looking good, save. Now I can add a script. And I just want a blank script. Good. Create. All right. Now we need a signal. So click on player detector, go into node, and we want body entered. And we connect. So we're here connecting from, we connect to the script in detonator. Excellent. And that's all we need. So our function has been created. And all we want to do, if the player is detected by the player detector, is play the detonate animation. So we are here at the moment in this script. We have to get hold of the player detector, and we do that with $sign. So where's my $sign on my keyboard? And it gives us a bit of a choice of things. So we go player detector, so it does it for me. Hello. So I get my $sign, and I want to tell the animation player to play an animation. So I start typing animation player, and it should do it for me. animation player dot play, put the parentheses in, and it should give you a choice. So it's detonate or reset. So detonate is the one we created. Reset is the single frame that it goes back to once it's played the animation, if you tell it to. So animation.player, and we want detonate. All right, great. Save it. And I think we can try that out. So let's go into our level template, 2D view, with the level template selected. Click on the chain and instance in the detonator. There it is. Put it right next to the player there. Quite a bit bigger than the player, isn't it? So maybe we need to scale it down. Let's try it. So click on the play, run project. Jump on top of it. And it goes and detonates. I don't know if we need to scale it down. Let's move it a bit nearer to the ground. And I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's put it in this pit here. It's quite a lot bigger than the blocks. I might need to scale it down. Anyway. All right, that's good. So when the player lands on it, the plunger goes down and the player moves down with the plunger. I don't know about the size, but I'm going to keep it as it is for the time being, and perhaps we'll adjust it later. But that's all I want to do for the moment, and we've achieved what we set out to do. In the next section, we will create the exploding box of TNT. I hope to see you there.